Hello, it's Friday, so it's apologetics again. In the shadow of Easter, the resurrection day is behind us. But while we're still talking about the resurrection of Christ, whether it makes sense, we can approach it from a philosophical perspective, and we can make a good argument that it actually happened. And we've been talking about how skeptics are trying to give a naturalistic explanation as to what happened. And last time I was talking about that they went to the wrong tomb. So now we are talking about another theory that Jesus either apparently was dead, it was an apparent death, yeah, or he swooned. So a couple of skeptics think that Jesus lost his consciousness on the cross and he was buried alive, but then he was able to convince his disciples that he was resurrected. But the thing is that his enemies, not only his friends, his enemies thought that he resurrected. And the other thing is, Romans were professional killers, and even before he was hanging on a cross, they beat him to half death. As I already mentioned, that the method they use, how it was ripping off the skin as he was being flogged and he was losing a lot of blood. That's why he couldn't carry the crossbeam up the hill. But then, okay, so Jesus gets beaten to half death. Then he gets taken up the hill. Then they take nails and they hammer them into his hands and feet. And then hours later, they take a spear and they drive it into his side. That is really hard to come back from. And then there was a reason they didn't break his legs, because they knew he was dead. I mean, what happened was, so when you were hanging on the cross, the way you're positioned is your pecs pretty much won't allow you to breathe, because I think they either close off your airways or they collapse the lung. It's either or, I don't remember exactly, but anyway, they stop you from being able to breathe. So what happens is every time you want to take a breath, you have to push yourself up. So that's why they were breaking people's legs. So essentially, they were suffocating on the cross. But they didn't do it because they knew Jesus was dead. And apparently even Pilate himself made sure that Jesus was dead. So that's why the disciples lost all hope. And according to archaeologists and non-Christian historical writings, they confirm this, that the Romans did use crucifixion as a form of punishment. Let's say doctors today, contemporary doctors, think, well, it has been argued anyway, that the most logical thing, or the most reasonable thing to argue as in light of whatever happened to Jesus, that he died. Because according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, in the 21st of March 1986, there was three doctors, one of them was a pathologist. They argued that the evidence suggested that Jesus was dead before the spear was driven through his side, because the spear would have gone in between his ribs on the right side, on the left side, and it would have punctured the lung, the heart, and the pericardium. It's the sac of water around the heart. So to say that Jesus didn't die is just it's really opposing what we understand about medical science or the human body. The other problem is they took about 75 or 100 pounds of wrap around him and spices and balm. So even if he had survived this, or the wrap and the balm would have killed him, So because imagine he's bleeding from a thousand places, then they wrap his body with these extremely heavy wraps, and then they put bombs on him, which probably would have suffocated him anyway. All that heavy bomb around his lungs would have stopped him breathing, and then he was in the cold tomb. That would have killed him as well. But even if he had survived this, he would have had to be able to get out of these wraps. You know how his body was wrapped around. He would have had to be able to get out of this, and then he would have had to roll away the stone, then get past the guards in order to be able to convince the disciples that he resurrected. I think it would have been really hard, because as I talked about how people died the death of a martyr, they were convinced that they saw the resurrected Jesus. And if he comes out limping and bleeding and all bloody all over the face, and he probably would have needed medical attention. Nobody in their right mind would have believed that he was actually a resurrected Messiah. Plus, what about the Apostle Paul? He was convinced that he saw the resurrected Christ on the road to Damascus. And he was like Osama bin Laden of Christians. He persecuted them. He hated them. He had them killed, flogged, stoned to death. How do you explain that? And he claimed that he saw the resurrected Christ. Excuse me. And then he became his follower. In fact, he became his most passionate follower. So something dramatic had to happen. And even non-Christian writers said that he died on the cross, like Josephus, Tacitus, Thallus, and even the Jewish Talmud. And the Jewish Talmud ain't friendly towards Christianity. And even they said that the day before the Passover, the evening before the Passover, Jesus was hanging from a tree. To be fair, it's not in the Bible that he was crucified. The word cross isn't in the Bible. But like I said, archaeological evidence and what the historians know about the period, the most logical thing seems to be that he was indeed crucified. I'll continue later. Bye.